New York, it's Kevin McCullough. We're glad you're with us. Thank you for being here every single weekday. Today is the 150th anniversary of the Gettysburg Address, and the president, not able to attend, recently recorded it for the purposes of a Ken Burns documentary, but he left something out. Take a listen.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of it as a final resting place for those who died here, that the nation might live. This we may, in all propriety, do. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have hallowed it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, while it can never forget what they did here. It is rather for us, the living, we here be dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve these dead shall not have died in vain. That the nation shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
All right, so that was the president. Real quick question: Did you even notice what he left out? The phrase "under God." I'll just tell you right up front. That's what it was. It was the phrase "under God." And today, not only is he leaving that out, he's leaving out any observance of the Gettysburg Address altogether. Maybe it's completely insignificant. Maybe I'm messed up. Maybe in some way, me thinking that our first African-American president should be present at the Gettysburg 150th memorial is silly or less than necessary or in some way insignificant. But I feel exactly the opposite. And I wonder why. The president's press office said he was too busy fooling around with that website thing, the whole website thing. Maybe that's a suitable excuse. Maybe you feel like it's more important. I'm curious as to your thoughts. I want to know if other Americans are observing it and feeling it the way I am. It just felt inappropriate for him not to be there. 888-589-8840. Let's go to the phones, and let's start with June in Arkansas. Hi, June. Welcome.
Hi there, Kevin. I appreciate your show.
Thank you.
Myself, I think it's horrible that he's not observing this, but knowing and seeing what this president has done to divide our country over his administration, it shouldn't surprise anybody, because he's not into what Abraham Lincoln was talking about, to heal the country, bring the country together. He's always been about dividing the country. And so I cannot imagine why he would want to bring to people's attention that we need to come together as a nation.
June, I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you a very important question. When the man launched his bid for the White House, he did it from Abraham Lincoln's hometown. He did it from the state capital of Illinois. He did it from these very specific Lincoln associated places that sought to, I don't know, root his image and presence into the fulfillment of the vision that Abraham Lincoln had. Are you saying that none of that was real, or he's just abandoned it, or what's your perspective on that?
I think that it was probably politically advisable for him to do that, being the first African American, nominee, president, whatever. But in this case, yeah, I think he used it, and that sounds terrible. But in this case, to celebrate Lincoln's dream of a united America, that all people are created equal, all people, not just blacks, not just whites, but all people. He's not into that,
Right.
because it's amazing. So I work in a prison, and I see the things that go on between races, and he's not into healing those divisions.
The divides.
He's into widening those divisions, and it makes me sick.
Well, people say that. Thank you, June, for the call. People say that, and there's going to be people, obviously, June, that disagree with you, and I'm going to encourage people that disagree to jump on and go to the front of the line, 888-589-8840. I think that the president practices express bigotry and prejudice in ways that few people have. In fact, I would say this president has expressed greater bigotry and prejudice against a subsect of people that no one in our nation's history has ever exhibited publicly or in legislative efforts in any way near the proportion that he has. This is one of the most bigoted and oppressive presidencies when it comes to civil rights, particularly against one subsect of people that he very obviously doesn't believe is equal. And so, I mean, maybe it was all lip service to be in the shadow of Lincoln and to announce his run for the presidency. Maybe it's all lip service that he even read the portion of the Gettysburg Address that he did when he did. Because in some ways, this presidency has been by far the most prejudiced and bigoted and in some ways legislatively hateful of one subset of people that the world has ever seen. And yet, amazingly, our media yawns, looks the other way, doesn't acknowledge it, goes forward as though there's no there. I think it's pretty simple to me when I look at it as to why the president may not be interested in celebrating the Gettysburg Address, because he may not actually believe that the forefathers brought forth on this continent a new nation that was conceived in liberty and that was dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Maybe he doesn't really believe those words himself. What do you think? 888-589-8840. Let's go to let me go to Bob in West Virginia. Bob, you're next. Glad you're with us. Hi.
Hey, Kevin. Good afternoon. Love your show.
Thank you.
Calling from the great state of West Virginia, who, thanks to Abraham Lincoln, we have a state.
There you go.
I agree with everything you said, and being an extremely right-wing Republican, I never have cared for this man. However, I think all of us cautionary need to remember he is president, and no matter who we can or can't stand as president or what they are doing or aren't doing for us, I still have to respect the office begrudgingly. I just wonder.
I don't have a problem. Yeah, I don't have a problem with respecting the office fully. Not at all. The office is the office of an employee. It's someone that we hire.
True.
They're like our secretary. We show them where their cubicle is, and then we say, now you get to work here for us for a little while.
True.
But at the end of the day, I have no problem respecting that office as I would respect anybody that I hire.
Well, I caution us all, and I'm one of those people that is, scared and freaked out, of course, the catastrophic damage that this Obamacare thing could bring to us all. Not could, will. And I'm, as one of many of us that's screaming at the White House, do something about this now, and if you're going to run with it, at least fix it. We're the same people that are complaining he's not gone to this, and I say this in cautionary place to the future. I mean, if we have, I hope, a Republican president next term around, if that person, man or woman, happens to be white and they can't make it to a Martin Luther King ceremony, are they going to receive the same bashing? And if so, I think he should at least.
You know what?
Have
That's
somebody
totally
on his
fair.
staff.
Bob, you're bringing up totally fair points. I also didn't see the media covering George W. Bush when he was attending Martin Luther King Jr. ceremonies.
True.
So, there is this
very
amplification that takes place through the media that is quite selective, and the voices that they allow to be amplified are quite selective.
As in any form of media, including this one. I just, at least somebody on his staff. I'm sure there's an African American on his staff at least to represent the White House to be here. This is a very momentous occasion, as you said.
150 years. I mean, that's astounding.
Yeah, it really is. And for him not to recognize it just by quoting his same speech over, I mean, for Pete's sake, if you can't be present, at least have someone on your staff there. It's appalling to me. However, I still go back to the maybe common sense issue of, okay, if we're griping at him to fix what he's got to fix, I understand him spending time on this, but you know what? It's a 24-hour day.
Yeah.
Spend some other time on it.
Does anybody actually think the president's the one in there laying code into the computer program anyway?
Correct. I know.
Yeah, I mean, because and that's where even the White House's flippancy in terms of how they tweeted about it. Well, the whole website thing. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean the president is literally sleeves are rolled up and he's in the guts of his computer typing out HTML, see if he can get the response form to work properly this time? I mean, and yeah, so I sure, we do want you to do your job. And there were a bunch of us saying that this was not something that we wanted and wasn't going to work anyway, and we don't think that it's a good way to go. And so maybe there are some of us that would say, yeah, we want you to fix it or whatever, but you also need to be at this other place, and he can't physically be there. So maybe he's right. Maybe my last caller is correct. Maybe I'm being unfair. At the end of the day, however, how many other times in the course of your 8 years as president are you going to have 150th anniversary of the Gettysburg Address come along? I mean, and why wouldn't you use that moment? And I'm just thinking out loud. I'm not really griping about the president. I'm just asking questions. But why wouldn't we use that moment to reinforce an even stronger statement of the belief that all men are created equal? That it is something that the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. Does government that is of the people and by the people and for the people still practice bigotry and prejudice and legislative manipulation and hatred years and years and years later against a certain set of people? Because that's what this president in his own efforts has accomplished in ways that no one else has. No one elected to federal office has ever expressed such bigotry and prejudice against a certain set of people. I mean, I believe that what President Lincoln did, he did for moral and righteous reasons, that he saw abuse and neglect and horrific crimes being committed against a set of people simply because of their DNA. And this president practices the exact same form of prejudice and bias and bigotry against people of certain DNA, specifically the development of that DNA, and no one says anything about it. The media says nothing about it. I think the reason that the president wasn't able to make a speech at Gettysburg today is because in his heart he knows he doesn't live up to the message of what President Lincoln was dealing with there. 888-589-8840. Let's go back to the phones and speak with Terry in Mississippi. Terry, you're up next on AFA Today with Calvin McCullough. Glad you're here. Terry, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, you're up. You're on the air. Go ahead.
I enjoy your program. Listen, I think a key thing here about the reason that he don't want to go is he doesn't realize and doesn't care for the fact that freedom isn't free. And he doesn't care about our heritage, where we came from, a God-fearing nation that was established here by the Pilgrims for freedom of worship. He wants to reinvent America, like you said, a total transformation of who we are as a society. And it's all about a socialistic, humanistic philosophy, because he believes that that's what America needs. He thinks that our nation, with freedom and liberty and the blood that was spilled on foreign field and our field alike, is not relevant to what we need as a nation. And I think it's a deep-seated philosophy. And I think the only times that he, when he was running for office, was the only time he would appear to be American or Christian would be for political gain. So he is one of the most hypocritical, he is one of the most arrogant, condescending individuals, and that has nothing to do with his race. I wouldn't care if he was purple with yellow stripes going up and down his back, but it's his attitude about America, where we are as a nation, and I think that's the reason he said, "I choose not to go to this. It's not important to me." And
so you don't think the health care issue was really something that was on his plate, that he just didn't feel like going?
I'll tell you one thing about the health care. If this thing falls through, it'll be like the end of the world to Obama and to his humanistic, socialistic friends. I say concerning that, either fix it right or let it sink on its own.
But the thing about that, Terry, is, and thank you for the call, the thing about that, Terry, is this. When socialists really do see something going wrong, even if it's something that they suggested, their idea is never to abandon. Their argument is, we just haven't done it the right way yet. We got to keep trying this idea of federal control of this area. It's concerning, but it's also concerning that he's not living up to the merits of the Gettysburg Address. Is that why he's not there 150 years later? I'm Kevin McCullough. Stay with us on AFA Today on AFR Talk.